What a beautiful way to start 2026. Coming in with a powerful weapon against what I believe is one of the strongest defenses in the world. The Taimanov Sicilian with knight c6 on the fourth move. You see, what makes this type of Sicilian to be the most dangerous in my opinion is its pawn structure and the fact that it combines more than 3 opening variations and strategies. First of all, remember how annoying the French defense is. Yes, the Taimanov Sicilian may also arise from what many people call the French Sicilian, which is so annoying in that it makes your light squad bishop look useless on c4. And we don't have many fast ways to punish this, but I'm going to prove you wrong in today's video. As a matter of fact, let's face it, the Sicilian is boring to play against. So let's punish this accordingly. But before we start, do me a favor guys, it is time for you to subscribe to this channel. We are running out of time. And I mean, the world might end anytime soon. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the like button, leave a happy new year comment in the comment section down below, and I'll respond accordingly. And don't forget to share this video if you may. So, after e4 and black plays c5, you need to go knight f3. This is the main line, main stuff, no cheap tricks, no dirty lines. e6 is one of the most solid things black can do in the Sicilian. I propose you go d4, and after pawn takes, you capture back with your knight, not your queen. And this is where the Sicilian defense may go different ways. I want you guys to picture this position. If necessary, or if possible, simply screenshot this position. You will need it in tournaments. This is where the Sicilian may go different ways. The modern name given to this is the French Sicilian open variation. So if black plays pawn to s6, that is called the Can Sicilian. We see this s6 move also appearing in the Nido. But when s6 is played while the pawn is on e6, this is called the Can Sicilian. In this same position, if black plays knight f6 on the fourth move, that transposes to the Scheveningen variation. And one of the lines I love playing against the Scheveningen is the keres attack, pawn to g4. That also works. But nowadays, there's this annoying move that all black players are playing, which is knight c6, known as the Taimanov Sicilian. So let's begin with s6, which is the Can variation. Well, of course, we're going to get back to the Taimanov, so don't worry. s6, after we go knight c3, this is when black may play knight c6. And we kind of transpose back to the Taimanov. This is the move order you're going to see by black. It is so annoying and there's nothing much we can do in the opening. But is that true? The top played moves nowadays are bishop e2 and bishop e3. That's fine. But I want to introduce something crazy to you, which can also be played in serious games, in serious over-the-board federated games, even in classical games. So you go bishop f4. At first sight, this looks like a blunder to an average person due to pawn to e5. But nope, if black plays this move, just know the pawn is free due to knight takes. You are just attacking the queen, so they have to take accordingly. They take with the b pawn, and then you capture that pawn for free. When you're just up a pawn for nothing. Knight f6, queen d4. If d6, you can just retreat your bishop. You keep your bishop pair, right, for the endgame. If c5, yeah, you can even play queen d3. Why not queen d2? You want your queen to be super active, leaving an option to go queen g3 in the near future. And life goes on. They can't take due to checkmate. Bishop e7, bishop takes. Game over. And this is why black cannot play pawn to e5 when you play bishop f4. Now let me show you the main trap behind this move, bishop f4. Say after black plays knight ge7 with an intention to go pawn to d5, because this is what they like doing. You have an opportunity to sacrifice your d knight. Always remember this move, you guys. On the next move, you would love to checkmate black like that. Obviously, most of your opponents are going to take that knight because what are you doing? But that's when you take back with your c knight. Again, the idea is to checkmate black like this or like that. What more are they going to do? Some people are going to play pawn to d5, but I give you 1 year to find the best, 5 seconds to find the best move in this position. Let's go. Okay, I guess you were able to find this brilliant move that wins the queen right away. Bishop c7. With this move, there is nothing black can do to save their queen after knight d6 check. This is almost checkmate, so they have to give up their queen like that. This is one beautiful trap that introduced me to this line in the Taimanov. Let's go back. Now, say after sacrificing your d knight and black takes, then knight takes, black doesn't really have to play pawn to d5. Why? I mean, there are better moves like queen a5 check in this position. You know what? If that happens, just do not play pawn to c3 like what most players do here. That can work, and of course you will be able to play like that. But see, the only reason why I hate pawn to c3 here is that black can play knight g6, attacking your bishop. I mean, even if you give a check and then they move, you're not going to capture that unless you're prepared to lose both your bishop and your knight for a rook. Will you? Nah. So I guess pawn to c3 doesn't work in this line, which is why when white plays queen f5 check, just retreat your bishop to d2. That attacks the queen, they can't take your knight. And you still have an option to go check. After all, the only sensible move for black is queen b6. And then you give a check, and after king d8, you win a rook like that. Black has to move. If they play king c7, this is even worse due to bishop f4 check. There's nothing they can do here. If d6, that'll be checkmate. If pawn to e5, again, that'll be mate in one. So they have to sacrifice a lot of material like this, then you take, and this, and you go bishop c5, grab that queen. You don't see these kinds of traps happening every day, you guys. What is stopping you from subscribing to this channel or simply from sharing my videos? Because the more you share my videos, the more this channel will grow. I mean, a lot of people are going to know about this channel, and that will encourage me to do more stuff. These are things that many coaches hide in their courses, but I'm showing you this for free on YouTube. Anyway, after bishop d2, queen b6, and knight d6 check, then that and this, we saw that king c7 runs into that checkmate idea. So black will probably go back to e8, after which you can just go ahead and take the rook. That's it. Oh, they can take on b2, but this is not much of a stretch. In fact, here I propose you play rook b1, and if they take, that's when you go bishop c3, protecting your knight indirectly and also threatening to win that queen or the rook. Like if queen a3, here we can just go queen f3, protecting that, also threatening to take the dark squad bishop after giving a check, and that. Things are very bad for black, not to mention that rook a1 is coming to win the free rook on a8. By the way, the link to this master PGN that I'm using is in the comment section down below. There you will find this full study. I owe it to my patrons or the funders of this channel. So this is one trap that is hidden in the bishop f4 line, where we sacrifice our d knight on b5. Remember this trap. What does bishop f4 do? Apart from that trap which I just showed you, in the main line, bishop f4 just supports the upcoming pawn to e5, pawn push. I mean, that's it. In fact, it is because of this idea why black plays pawn to d6. Because the main goal of bishop f4 in the main line is to play pawn to e5. Again, the primary objective of bishop f4 is to play pawn to e5. Because in most cases, black has a tendency to give a check like that and win the pawn on e5. So we use this bishop to support e5. That's the primary goal. And it is because of bishop f4 why black plays d6 on the next move. But if they play knight f6, feel free to go pawn to e5. No question about it. And there's a difference. You don't want to take, then play pawn to e5, because after knight d5 and knight takes, you're just going to help black to have this wonderful pawn chain on the center and still maintaining their French pawn setup. So you want them to only remain with these isolated pawns. That's why you don't take the knight immediately on c6. I mean, in the knight f6 line, you first of all want to go pawn to e5, so that if knight d5 is played, now you take and look at the difference. They are going to remain with these doubled isolated pawns, and they will no longer have their French pawn. So that is from the positional standpoint. And in this case, we won't even have to capture that to help them connect the pawns or whatever. We'll leave that like that. We'll play knight f5 and other stuffs. Even queen g4 is coming, all those things. So again, after bishop f4, black has to play d6 to stop e5. If knight f6 is played, play pawn to e5. We'll look at that in detail. So let's begin with d6. If pawn to d6 is played, which is what you're going to see most of the times, now the threat is real. The safest thing you can do here is to retreat your bishop to g3 or just oversimplify things. You see, grandmasters love simplifying things, which is one thing I love as well. So take on c6 like that, and after black takes, we simply go queen d2. The idea is to put more pressure on this pawn. So we may either castle long or just play rook d1 so that we castle short. And one move that you're going to see in this exact position, like it or not, is pawn to e5. And this has been our main goal from the word start. You see, we really hate the French Sicilians. So one of the objectives behind bishop f4 is to provoke the move pawn to e5 so that this no longer remains the French Sicilian. At least we'll be able to develop our light squad bishop like that. By the way, pawn to e5 is the common move. And after that, instead of putting your bishop on g3, better be active, play bishop e3. Bishop e3 I find to be more active because it also stops queen b6. And you're going to play pawn to f4 once the dust settles. Say knight f6, what else can they do? Then you go bishop c4. That's what I'm talking about. There's no pawn on e6, bishop e7, up to you to castle short, or play bishop g5, kind of a strategic move, or pawn to f3. From here, it's just a matter of technique. They also love this idea of pawn to f3, and I want to start pawn storming on that side of the board. For example, after castle short, I can castle long and start pawn storming like that. All depends with the plan that you come up with. Castle short is the safest. You can put the king on h1 and still go pawn to g4. That's another move for you guys. And that was in the pawn to d6 line. So if black plays d6, just remember this can be a real threat. So you want to oversimplify things like that. There's no need to bulking up pieces on the board, leaving them loose. This knight is basically out of the game, so you can't just leave it here for good. Maybe you can play knight b3, but black's knight is going to remain active. So you just want to oversimplify the game, take on c6, like what grandmasters do. What if black plays the second most played move in this position, which is knight f6? You see, this is another beautiful thing about playing bishop f4. Let me show you. In the long run, we see that pawn to e5 is almost an impossible move in the Sicilian defense, because in most cases, black can play queen a5 check and win that pawn. So imagine if we put our bishop on f4 and let's say there's no knight on c3, we can simply go e5 without having to worry about queen a5 check and that. So that's another beauty about bishop f4. So here we can go e5. If knight d5, just take. And after pawn takes, I love the idea of leaving my knight here. Sometimes I play pawn to c3, letting black to take me so that I capture like that. Bishop e2 is also a move you may consider, even queen d3, just trying to be super active. So say queen d2 in this position, maybe we would love to go bishop g5. If knight takes, I mean, black is just going to be behind in development since we'll be now attacking the d5 pawn. If bishop c5, we have knight f5, look at that. If castle short, if you think about it, queen takes looks scary due to queen f5 check and maybe that discovery. So here it'll be wise to play moves like bishop g5 or castle long. So once again, this is the starting line that you should always keep in mind when you're playing against a French Sicilian, and it's called the Taimanov variation, where you want to go bishop f4. There's so much things you can do, but bishop f4 is one of the tricky lines. Apart from d6 and knight f6, the other move you might see here is bishop b4. And now, see the difference. This kind of allows you to capture on c6 now. There's a reason for that. Because the dark squad bishop is no longer defending the pawn on g7. So if you take, and let's say they take back like that, you can now go queen d4, hitting two things at once. These are rare moments when knight takes c6 works. People take on c3 here, after which you take back with your queen. Taking back with a pawn also works, but this is okay. You're still hitting that. They play knight f6. There's no need to play pawn to e5 here. You are going to close the line and activate that knight, which is why I love playing castle long in this exact position. It's always good to castle long in the Sicilian, by the way. Pawn to f3 also works, but only if you are prepared to go bishop e3, bishop d3, bishop c4, castle short, or you start pawn storming. Pawn to f3 also helps to start pawn storming on the queen side as early as we can. So I'll play pawn to f3 here, getting ready for this. I mean, if pawn to d5, there's queen takes check. Even castle long here works. Say bishop that, and bishop d6. No more castling. And we have that. Pawn takes, no need to take due to that fork. Or we can, actually, because if knight takes happens, now we have queen takes g7. Again, back to the initial position. Instead of pawn to d6 or knight f6 or bishop b4, black may play queen f6. Very rare, but playable. If that happens, knight takes will not work here due to queen takes bishop. You better save your bishop like this, bishop e3, and if bishop c5, adding more sword to the wound, guess what? We have knight takes e6, attacking that bishop, or at worst, we're going to win a pawn, and we just managed to capture that French pawn, by the way. If bishop takes, threatening to checkmate, first, we have this intermediate move, knight c7 check, and if that happens, that's when we take the bishop, and after king takes, guess what? Knight d5, bam, the queen is dead. So again, this is another hidden trap in the Taimanov Sicilian that you always want to keep in mind. In the queen f6 line, again, just remember to protect your knight like this. This time, if they don't play bishop c5, which leads to knight takes, and let's say they go bishop b4, here you can just go queen d3 or bishop e2, whatever you like, that works. And there's always this annoying move that people play knight e5. You can just go queen d2 if that happens. Or let's say if black plays knight e7, now they want to castle short. In most cases, feel free, comfortable to castle long. After all, you are just unpinning that knight. If bishop takes, this time you can even capture with your queen. Pawn takes also works. With castling long, this will allow you to have a very fast attacking opportunity on the king side with those pawns. d5, oversimplify the position. bc, to open up that. Now you go knight a4. Knight a4 is always the savior in these kinds of positions, by the way. Just ensure you do not hang mate in one like that, especially after castle short. So you want to get rid of this problem as quickly as you can, probably with c3 or queen d4. You go for an exchange. c3 works for me. Bishop d6. Then right away, h4. You start expanding on that side of the board while keeping an eye on this. Don't worry about the queen side. This knight on a4 does a great job to defend the b2 pawn. They may try bishop d7, trying to do that and that, whatever. But here you can even play something like knight b6, I guess, check, or even knight c5 works. And that g4 may wait. You also have those other ideas. g4 is one of them. Lastly, bishop f4 also stops queen c7, which many Taimanov players love playing. But if they notice that you're not guarding the b2 pawn, they might hit you with queen b6. Now, targeting that pawn. If you want to oversimplify things, you can take. But in this type of Sicilian, I find knight b3 to be okay. Yeah, still people will play moves like bishop b4. Against bishop b4, we can play bishop e3, bishop d3, castle short. But there's a beautiful line I love. It's hard to memorize, but I hope you won't forget it. Queen g4, hitting that. The whole idea is if they play pawn to g6, that's when we go queen f3. If bishop takes, we take with the queen and be up a tempo. If knight e7, again, we always have this idea of castling long, say castle short, knight a4. What did I say? This move, knight a4, is the savior. And when you play like this, I mean, it's going to be so annoying for black. They have to start undeveloping their pieces. Here you can even play bishop h6, attacking that rook. Then finally, queen f6, look at that. If knight f5, you go queen takes. After rook takes, you just win a piece. So against the queen b6 line, just go knight b3. And if knight f6, now you have time to go a3 so that black no longer has this option to pin your queen's knight. So bishop e7. What did I say about this bishop? It supports pawn to e5 whenever you have a chance. This time there's no knight d5 due to, we're just going to win a pawn. And there's no better square for this knight, to be honest. They have to go back. Another idea of pawn to e5 is to go knight e4. Maybe we are going to go knight d6 check. How are they going to develop this knight? I don't know. Maybe pawn to f5, the top played move. Now we have knight d6 check, bishop takes, then queen takes. The knight is pinned to the queen. We're going to castle long. Black is behind in development and all that. So that's a new weapon for you guys for 2026. Let me know if you would love me to start testing out this weapon against real human opponents on lichess. Now, check this out, you guys. If you want to learn more about these kinds of tricks or similar opening ideas like the ones I just shared, you can watch this video that has popped up on the top left. Another video that I highly recommend you check out to skyrocket your rating is this one that has popped up on the top right. But if you love Gambit videos, you can check out the video that has popped up on the bottom left. And if you are a lover of chess traps like myself, feel free to click on the video that has popped up on the bottom right.